All right, guys. So what's going on? So Pete Kopec here, Scott Stewart, and today, we've been Scott and I. We don't work on a team or anything, but we work side by side. We collaborate quite a bit, and we found that we've just had some really awesome conversations lately. And we just wanted to share what we talk about on a regular basis. So you're going to start seeing videos from us. We're going to try and keep it at or around 10 minutes. We're going to do our best, but I promise our conversations get pretty interesting. So, but yeah, so today we're going to actually just kind of chat a little bit about house hacking and investment properties, right? So, Scott, both you and I, we're big proponent of investment properties, passive income for our clients as well as for ourselves. So, why don't we just start off with what is house hacking?
Yeah, so welcome, guys. First episode here, and we're looking forward to dropping some more knowledge in the future. So definitely be sure after this to drop it in the comments or PM us and let us know if there's a topic you want covered. But yeah, house hacking. So essentially, house hacking, you can do it any number of ways. It doesn't have to relate to a specific type of property. I did it personally with a two-family. I know Pete kind of did it with a single-family property, but essentially, the idea is that you're getting into a home that you're going to use as your primary residence, and yet you also know that there is either an ability to rent out space within that home, possibly renting a bedroom within that house to a roommate, maybe a friend of yours, or throwing up an ad on Craigslist. Or in the case of what I did, I bought a two-family, and I leveraged the fact that the home that I live in, quite frankly, I could never afford the mortgage if it was a single family house based on the purchase price. But because I have a second unit in the two family, I rent that unit out. And honestly, it's been a little bit of a long road in the 3 years of owning this place. But I started out with a payment that was reasonable for myself. And now, I just recently refied, and I'm living well below my means at this point, thanks to house hacking. So
What's funny is, Scott, I remember when you first came across this house and you were thinking about it, you were just like, the market's been a seller's market for a while, and you're just like, I feel like I found this diamond in the rough. Like, I don't know what it is. And like, to me, that's one of like the main things of house hacking, right? Traditionally, I think when we say house hacking, we think of like a two-family house. You rent one, you offset the cost, but like, it doesn't always have to be that. It can be things that you can do improvements to, and just sometimes finding that diamond in the rough. So I know we talked a little bit about, kind of coming into this, but what were some things that you did to like add value while you were in the house?
Yeah, so it definitely, I think also one of the things that I know we both always talk to our buyers about, whether you're house hacking or whether you're buying, your ideal, first time home buyer or whatever, it's that, there is no such thing as a perfect house out there. You're gonna make a sacrifice on something, and so when I bought this house, the sacrifice that I made was the first floor unit was essentially move-in ready. The owner had gone in there and done a nice renovation on the kitchen about 5 years prior to me purchasing it, so that was really nice and fancy. All the stainless steel appliances. Generally speaking, that unit was move-in ready. There was actually tenants in there when I bought it. But I had that, initial thought of, oh, I wish I could just move in there. But I knew that the unit upstairs had this, putrid, green kitchen from the 70s. I'm sure.
I love them, man. Give me the pink and green bathrooms, man. That's value right there.
And I had a pink bathroom. It looked like, the Pepto-Bismol bottle had exploded in there. So that actually became my first project. And I've got to say, a couple things that came out of that, besides a much nicer bathroom, it was one of my first projects where I really learned how to be cost effective in doing improvements in the house. So I had this ugly pink bathroom. I want to make it look nicer. I want to make it look a little bit more enjoyable for me to use and on a daily basis. But also wanted it to, be functionally workable and not, sometimes you see these flips where people really cut corners and you end up with this, crappy thing that doesn't really function all that well, and it doesn't look all that well. So I went on to Angie's List, and I came across this contractor. We talked a little bit about, his previous work. He showed me some of the jobs he had done, And basically I said to him, I was like, Paul, my goal is to be out of this house or have the option of getting out of this house sometime in the next 2 to 5 years. I'm not looking to do a big expensive gut renovation. How could we approach this differently? His recommendation was, even though everything was pink, we could reglaze the tile, we could reglaze the tub, and all we basically did was we ripped out the floor tile, the vanity, and the toilet, gave the place a paint job, new tile on the floor, new vanity, new toilet, everything else just got reglazed, a nice clean white. I did that full reno for about $2,200.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like nothing, right? And it feels like brand new. And if you were now to rent it, you're going to be able to rent it for more money. Or if you decide you want to sell it, you're going to be able to sell it for more money. Or, and, in the interest of, look, we could talk.
Keep this short and sweet, right?
But yeah, so let's talk about other ways, right? We talked a little bit about on the finance side. So that kind of helped you in refining, right? And so talk a little bit about that process, because you did a lot more of that than like that side of it than I did. So I thought what you were talking about was great. So tell us a little bit about like, what did you do to keep more money in your pocket on that side of it?
Yeah, so a couple things right off the bat. I always want to encourage people that I think if you've never bought a home, just know that reach out to an agent and ask them, like, what is it going to take for me to buy a house? Being in the business, I obviously knew that even though I already owned a condo, situationally, I was able to still use an FHA loan to buy this 2-family, which basically meant that, being totally transparent, it was a $540,000 purchase price. I needed 3.5% down, which still kept me under $20,000 that I brought to the table. The market was a little bit different than it is today, which allowed me to get a seller concession to cover the closing costs. But basically, I got my foot in the door to a $550,000 home with less than $20,000 down. That was a huge. I don't think I could have been in this home if I needed to bring more money to the table. I always like to keep some money in reserves, and it just made me uncomfortable having to bring anything more than 20 grand. That was unimaginable though, but it happened, right? And I used that FHA mortgage. Going into it, because I used FHA mortgage, I did have a pretty hefty mortgage insurance tacked onto the top of my monthly loan cost.
Right. So that's the thing, right? When you're evaluating properties, it's that like always that balancing act of like, okay, I could put less money down, but then my mortgage payment is going to be higher. So I'm netting less on the back end.
Yep.
So I love what you did next. So yeah, talk about that.
And so my goal going in, I knew the way that I looked at it was, if I never moved into the property, even knowing that mortgage insurance is tacked on the top, if I never moved into the property and from day one I just rented both units, no changes, no alterations, nothing, would I at least cash flow $1? And the answer, when I put it into my calculator, yes, I would cash flow at least $1. It was going to be tight because I had nearly
like
$400 of mortgage insurance on top of my loan every single month, but the numbers worked, and I knew that there was area for improvement in making the home nicer. And my goal was going to be to make the home nicer, then refinance into a conventional loan through those improvements and market value going up. I just finished a refi where I now actually, with only 3.5% down 3 years ago, based on my refi, I now have 30% equity in the home thanks to improvements and market conditions improving. So I was able to get rid of that mortgage insurance. And now at this point, with a lower rate and all of those factors in play, I went from my portion of the mortgage being about $2,200 a month to being $1,350 a month.
I mean, come on.
So it takes some strategy.
It all started with $20,000 down.
$20,000 down, and certainly spent some money on those improvements. And yet again, always strategically, investing with the idea, how do I do this in a way where I know that I can always be getting onto that next investment property.
Dude, I think it's great, man. I think and like, it's just such a, you touched on something before, which we've talked about, right? Like, I think you don't know what you don't know. and like having that conversation and being like you have a friend, right? Who you were doing a video similar to this, and they were like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I could buy a house right now with this amount of money down? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's my good friends Laird and Karen. They bought a home in Bloomfield, 3.5% down, did exactly the same thing that I've been doing. They actually beat me to the punch and did it before I did. And, you know, the cool thing too, I know we're running on time here, is that house hacking gives you options. Myself, and speaking of Laird and Karen, they're in a situation now where, like, I've come to kind of love my house because of all the improvements that I've done. So now I'm kind of always back and forth on, do I want to move out and go buy another house hack? Or, you know, now do I look at it financially and maybe just make an investment in a property strictly as an investment property and keep my residence here, knowing that my living cost is $1,300 some odd a month. You can't find an apartment cheaper than that. Nonetheless, a 3-bed, 2-bath in Glen Ridge. So,
but you have options.
Yeah,
and you have
options. So, I think house hacking is a phenomenal strategy. I hope you guys, you know, got some value out of this. Pete, any other questions before we wrap up episode 1 here?
No, I think it's great. I mean, I think, you know, honestly, I think you and I could sit here and we could talk about this stuff all day long. I know, actually, because we do. You know, this is what we do. So, you know, I think that was the big spark. Like, hey, look, we have these awesome conversations, and I know somebody who has, you know, aspirations of investing or learning more about the real estate market. Like, I hope that I know that this gave them, although you may not fully understand it if you're new to this, like, first of all, know that you have Scott and myself to answer any questions. And if we don't know the answer, you can believe that we have a resource that will get us the answer. But just, I think, again, so many times it's just, you don't know what you don't know. I think I've told you, I bought a house. I always wanted to buy a house, right? I bought a house within like the first 6 months of being in real estate because I was like, holy crap, I'm closer than I thought. Mm-hmm. You know, and it all turned into other stuff. And we can talk about that on another video. But yeah, man, I'm excited to do this, you know, and just keep sharing this kind of stuff. We'll talk about all different kinds of things. We'll talk about, you know, kind of pull the curtain back a little bit, challenges we have in our jobs as real estate agents. And I think investing is going to be a common topic because I know you and I both have big goals and big dreams of passive income and retirement. So, yeah.
So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And, you know, like I mentioned at the front end of it, if there's a topic you want to hear about, let us know in the comments. We'd love to get some engagement here and bring you the value that you're looking for while we pull that curtain back.
We also need a name of this whole segment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let us know.
Drop those suggestions, guys.
Yeah, 10-minute man is probably not working out for us, so we'll see.
All right, guys. Until next time.